Afros, some Mike Wise, and of course, everybody who has questions.
Literally. That's the cool part about this show. It's your show. The viewers dictate this 100% of the entire show. If you have a question, you ask us. We spend the entire day reporting on those answers, and then at 7 o'clock when the show airs, we present the answers.
That's going to be fun. Well, in the spirit of the Q&A,
okay,
we decided to do a little Q&A around hair tonight.
True story.
Because the Crown Act has been introduced here in Montgomery County, Maryland. And the Crown Act, for those of you who may not know about it, is protection for women in the workplace who wear natural hairstyles. And a lot of people may not realize how many women who wear their natural hair, particularly women of color and especially black women and even some black men, have been passed over for opportunities, have been demoted, have missed out on pay raises because of their hair. So the Crown Act is working to counteract that, both here in the Montgomery County area and really in other states. California has already passed this act.
Correct.
New York has already passed this act. Other states are taking this issue up, and the hope is that all of the states plus federal protection will be a reality one day for women in the workplace. And we're talking about this because we know from sort of real life experience what it is like to be women of color, wearing our hair the way we wear it, and hearing from people about it.
That's the thing. I was in a salon just today talking to people about what is it about your hair that makes it important to you to wear it a certain way at work? And I spoke to a woman with dreads, and she said to me, she is 53. I made this decision years ago because it was kind of like a blank to you, the big man. I'm gonna stick it to you because for years, you have told me what is beautiful, what is okay, and what is comfortable for you to see on me. And she said, I took a stand and I'm deciding this is what's right for me.
So it's really trying to combat these really narrow standards of beauty that most of us actually can't live up to. And this idea of being present but not fully present in your life experience. You can be here if you wear your hair like this because that's considered more marketable, more successful, more acceptable, and ultimately more beautiful. And I think what we're trying to combat is really this broader narrative around what you should look like and really get back to, well, how about you just be the best, most full expression of yourself? Why don't you be your authentic self? We talk a lot about real matters.
We sure do.
Here at WUSA 9, and we talk about finding your authentic voice and finding your superpower and expressing yourself in a full circumference way. And not everybody has the opportunity to do that.
No. They don't. And let's be honest, sometimes that voice isn't necessarily coming from the big man. It's not coming from
the big woman.
Your corporation. Amen. I hope it is the big one. Like, I hope that we do have spaces in higher up where women can be the ones to decide what is okay and what is not, because at the end of the day, hopefully that decision would be one that favors women. I would like that. But that's not always the case. In this case, though, people are having to deal with what their family members are saying to them. And that's real. So it's like, who is perpetuating this idea of what is right? Is it actually coming from 2 bedrooms down? Is it coming from that magazine that you've had on your shelf since you were 5?
Or is it coming from the imagery of shows that just aren't real, right? We talk about sort of the Real Housewife of vacation of things. And
you mean like the fakest wife you've ever seen in your life?
And I'm not making a judgment about who they are as people, but I think what people see in the imagery is something that most of us can't live up to. So you and I both have interesting journeys that we've been on regarding hair.
True.
You have worn your hair, now this is your hair in its natural state.
Correct, but this was a pretty recent decision for me to wear it like this on television, because 2.5 years ago, I worked in fashion, and I didn't have to think about what my hair, what my outfit, literally how many piercings I had. I never had to think about any of those things when I walked into work, because everyone knew that whatever I was looking like that day was an expression of what I felt that day, and it could change every day, and that didn't matter. But when I decided to have a job in television, I was upset with myself for having to consciously make this decision, but having to decide, you know what, I'm going to wear my hair curly, and it took me 2.5 years to do it. But I did. And I decided, you know what, at the end of the day, if I'm going to be in Washington, D.C., in a place where every single day I tell stories about people that look exactly like me with my hair the way it should be, the way God created it, and I'm being inauthentic in how I'm presenting myself on TV, that's not cool.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And so I had, for the longest time, worn my hair chemically treated.
Okay.
And
that's a process.
That is a process, literally and figuratively, right? Yeah. Delia Gonsalves is in the building. Hey, girl.
Late to the party.
There's
How are y'all
always
doing?
one sister that shows up to the party late.
But I always make a
if
grand
there's
entrance.
going to be somebody that shows up late, it's going to be Delia Gonsalves. Delia Gonsalves, everybody.
They all know.
Love you, mean it. We were just talking about hair, right?
Yes.
And the fact that we've all talked about this idea of struggling with what our natural hair looks like. Right. I was treating my hair chemically for years. Okay. There was a period when I wasn't doing that, and there were women, not my workplace, women, and in particular black women, who would call in and say, your hair is not straight enough. Black women don't wear their hair this way. And it cut me to the core, because I kept saying, but we are expressions of each other, and you're saying this to me, and I'm you, right? Because we're interconnected. So that, I used to really care about that. Now I'm like, whatever, I don't care.
And that just shows you how deep it runs. You know, we've been conditioned to think that your hair has to look a certain way to be presentable. And so when I was in college, I wore my hair long and big and natural and curly. And I remember my professors telling me, you'll never get a job like that. Like you can't have big hair on TV. Now this is, you know, many moons ago. They said you have to straighten it and cut it into a bob. Remember, that was what everyone was
that was
wearing.
the uniform. Everybody had your hair. Mine, I used to wear longer, and they would tell me it's too sexy, it's too long, you got to shorten it. So it would get shorter and shorter and shorter, and then it just sort of
It's like, who are the arbiters on what looks good for each person?
It's mostly men making a lot of these decisions.
Amen. We have mostly people weighing in on Facebook now.
Are they really? What are they saying? Oh,
yes.
And you know what? You take a look at that for a second. But I do want to point out that Delia and I just recently had a conversation about her hair. As beautiful as her curly hair is,
it does look good.
Dee, you were on the fence about it.
I was.
You were really conflicted about whether or not you should do it, whether it would impact you, how people would receive it. How have people received your hair?
I do have to say you were the first. It was that conversation in the green room when you said, Dee, you could totally pull it off. It's usually my weekend look. This is the look that my girls love, because I'm all about raising 3 little brown girls who are proud of their crowns, especially amongst their little white friends who have wispy hair and bangs. And so we've always taught them the lesson that this is your crown, and this is your glory, and you should be proud of it. But I was hesitant, right? So the first time I took that leap, it was a weekend when I wore my hair curly, and I was anchoring with Lorenzo Hall, and I was waiting for.
Were you waiting for the phone to ring?
I was waiting for the phone to ring.
Stop
it. You know, for angels to to sing, or I thought it was going to be a big deal, right? And it wasn't. But you mentioned, and it was seamless.
And you mentioned the fact that you have 3 daughters, and I have a daughter, and it is really important what we put out there in the universe for the children who look at us. My daughter has a lot of hair. She has a lot of thick hair, and I try to give her really positive messaging about that, because her hair is not like a lot of her friends. And we can't wash it every day. Because we be washing hair and blow drying hair all day long, right? It just doesn't work that way. So you're right. This whole idea that we should be proud of what we have, that we should walk tall with what we have, that we should be confident with what we have, that what we have is enough. It is enough.
And it's nice that you're having that conversation, but I'll say, my mom and I are so close, and I value her opinion on so many things, but this conversation about hair and what hair should look like on somebody on television was one that got us into a pickle.
Really?
And it had us battling it out for a couple days. And I said, at the end of the day, you are prescribing to this notion of white European beauty that at 31, I need to say, I have to speak for myself at this point and step out on my own and say, that's not going to be me.
But isn't it, that's the other reason why it is so important, right? Because when people see us and they see sort of this sea of sameness, this expectation that we're all supposed to look a certain way, that's not natural and it's not real.
No.
We're asking Black women, by not expressing their full selves, to do things that could harm us. Chemicals, harmful.
Right.
Straightening your hair, harmful.
Right.
These are all things and choices that we can make, and you can make them if you want to, and that's fine. But to be told, to be made to believe that if you don't look a certain way, that you then go against the trend, that you won't be successful, that you aren't marketable, that you aren't beautiful, that to me is the biggest issue, because when young people are looking at us, and if that's all they see, which is something that's not attainable, then what are they going to want to replicate?
And what's interesting
Something
is
that's not real.
That's true. And what's interesting is that they have Instagram. Young people see all of the faces of the world, all of the colors of the world. And so it is natural for them to see somebody that looks like the three of us at any given point in time. And so I think at this point in our lives, at this point, 2019, when there is a feeling of uncomfortability in us, it's on us. And that fear is something that they're not imposing on us anymore.
Right.
It's us having to get out of that old mindset and saying, how many times do you actually think about what other people think about you every single day? Zero, until it comes to your hair.
I love that we have shifted, right? The culture has shifted where things like the Crown Act are even discussed.
Right.
Right? And I love that our children and this newer generation is growing up without these preconceived notions of what presentable or beautiful or tidy looks like. You know, clean and tidy. At one point, dreadlocks or curls or a wild afro looked unkempt.
Right.
And that was just
dangerous.
Right. And that was a way of just breaking us down over time, where you eventually found that some women, and I dare to say perhaps even myself, right, who would wear this hair as my weekend hair, as my mom hair, my D hair when I'm chilling in the neighborhood. But when I came to work, I had a different look.
Right.
And that was just something you were conditioned to believe. And it could have stemmed from that college professor who told me, you'll never get a job with that big curly hair.
Yep.
I saw other people doing it, but I thought I could never do it myself.
Well, it's interesting. So in our world, we'll let you in on this, a lot of what we present to you is out of our hands, right? There used to be consultants who would come in and say, you should wear this color, you should wear that dress, you should wear your hair this way. This is the best look for you. And I remember going to a journalism conference for women and men who look like us, and really having an arresting moment, because what I saw was all of these beautiful people who looked alike. And I ended up asking someone, okay, help me understand this. This is not coming from a place of judgment. It's really like, so we're invited into the room, we're making changes, we're shifting the power dynamic, but we're still not allowed to be fully there. And many of the women were saying that the consultants, the news directors, places they work for told them that they needed to wear their hair in a consistent way. Right? That's the consistent way. It's got to have a certain look that doesn't offend anybody. And so the interpretation of that was, what you have going on is not enough. So you need to go get something else so that you can be socially acceptable. And that is a rough road to take.
It is. This is the beginning of the conversation. You know, we're not quite there yet. I'm proud of where we are, but we're not there yet until men and women of color can wear their hair naturally without discrimination or fear that it would affect their job performance or they will get side eyes at work. You know, until we're there, then we maybe have to take the conversation elsewhere. I never want to say the conversation will be over, because there's always room to grow, you know, in these conversations, and it's about having these difficult conversations.
Courageous conversations.
I want to bring in Facebook, because that's something that we do on the Q&A. Lesli is telling
here.
you I'm joining the
looking
show
at
tomorrow.
Lots of people.
So Sharice Cardwell said that this discussion is so on time, and so I want to know, do you guys have any stories about being discriminated against in your workplace because of hair? If you do, share them with us in here. We also have somebody asking us to make this about gray hair too.
Girl.
Okay, now that is a whole other thing.
Can we?
We
might just get real right here.
Well, because we do put color in it.
No, we do. Yeah, we do.
I try to really.
Don't look at my roots, Leslie.
Listen,
I see
these
you.
are strands
I
of
see
wisdom. All right,
Emily, don't get that close.
We all have border walls. We have border walls. There are clear lines of delineation here. I do believe that there are women who have that sort of conversation too.
Absolutely.
Should I color my hair?
Oh my
because
goodness.
if I have gray hair, it makes me look older. Am I going to then be susceptible to not just hair discrimination, but age discrimination?
Men are distinguished when they're silver foxes, and they got a little salt and pepper. Right. Women are old.
Right. That is the messaging that we've been told.
Do you guys remember Stacey London from What Not to Wear?
I do.
Yes. And her little
swoosh. That is exactly where my gray hair lies. And I'm like,
oh, then work
You're not ready for the swoosh?
you know what, I'm not. And it isn't even about how you people at home would perceive me. It is how I would feel about myself.
And this is what the conversation's about too. It's feeling good with whatever decision you make.
That's right.
If you want your hair relaxed, if you want to wear it natural,
absolutely.
if
You should
wanna
have
wear
the
it
right
curly,
to decide
absolutely.
however you want to wear it.
Right.
And because I relaxed my hair for years, and for years it was working for me until it stopped, and I said, this is not working.
Yeah.
Like this doesn't feel good. And I also didn't want my daughter to be saddled with this idea that she needed to do something that could potentially harm her to be acceptable, right? I call it the creamy crack, where you go and you're like, okay, go ahead and put those chemicals in, even though I really don't want them, but I don't want to hear women talk about me, and I don't want to hear any conversation, so let's just do it. Okay, let's do it and wash it out. And I would cringe and feel fraudulent in a lot of ways. Like I was not honoring all that I had to bring to bear, that I was literally chemically treating that out of me. And so finally I said, okay, that's enough.
Right.
And so in January, I stopped using chemicals altogether, and most of them have grown out. And I told people that I will still blow dry it and wear it this way because this is what makes me comfortable, but I am not putting straightening chemicals in my hair. I can't do it anymore. I just can't.
And you almost didn't need it, right? I mean, my mother, when I was young, would relax my hair. And now I think back and I look and I consider my own daughters. And I'm like, she never really had to do that. So I asked my mother about that. Why did you relax my hair? I was 12 years old, and I remember being in elementary school, and they were like, and I had my hair in a ponytail for the first time.
Okay.
It was picture day, and had just gotten relaxed, so I had a ponytail.
Flowing.
Yes. Flowing.
Couldn't tell you anything.
Right. I had
whip that
braids
hair.
up until I was 12 years old. Then my hair was like out. And everyone said, Delia, your hair is so beautiful. You know, like my friends were shocked. But I asked my mother why, and she said it was just easier to maintain.
Right. And
And that's real.
And that's real.
It's real,
right?
but
it is real, but there's a trade-off.
Right.
There's a trade-off just like anything.
Yeah.
There's a trade-off just like anything.
I want to jump back into these comments. Donna Smith is saying, way to go, Moco. And so we want to be specific. If you're just joining this conversation right now, we're talking about Montgomery County. They introduced what's called the Crown Act, and it is allowing both men and women who are deciding to wear their hair naturally curly, dreadlocked, twisted, braided at work.
You know what?
They're protected against any discrimination that they should face.
Someone's also saying in our chain here that they prefer the term locks and not dreadlocks.
Okay.
Nicole Jackson says there's nothing dreadful about locks. Here,
Oh, lovely.
Here.
I wonder where that name came from, the origin of dreadlocks.
Oh. That's a conversation for another day. We got this.
That is.
We got to look that up, though.
Yeah,
we'll come
and
back
if you guys
to that.
know, let us know.
That is definitely.
Donna
something
Edwards
interesting.
says that she thinks people should be able to wear their hair the way they want to wear their hair. Amen. We're saying that too. And then another Donna, whose last name I cannot pronounce, says so crazy that people have a problem with natural hairstyles. I mean, you're not going to get any pushback from us on that, but it's real and it's a conversation we have to have. And by the looks of how many people are watching this, it's a conversation you want to have.
Yeah.
So let us know what's going on in your personal lives here.
Absolutely. And I think that, so we started talking about our experiences individually, and there's something called the Crown Act, and the Crown Act is really trying to push this idea forward that you would be protected in every state in the country, and you'd also have federal protections. Right now, there are no real federal protections that prevent you from discrimination based on your hair. So we still have a ways to go. Obviously, we still have a lot of conversation to have. We're going to shut things down a little bit now because we've got to get ready for the 11 o'clock newscast. But the conversation can always go on Facebook.
Yes.
You know how to find all of us. We love hearing from all of you. And continue to share your stories with us, because this is something that's going to continue to be talked about. There's a public hearing October 15th where people can comment in Montgomery County. And I think it's also incumbent upon us to educate people who don't look like us about this issue. Many people who don't walk in the world like we do aren't saddled with that burden. So it's on us to make sure we educate people so that they can be allies and ambassadors and begin to understand a bit more about challenging these narrow views around beauty and acceptability. It's so much better when you invite everybody and you can see everybody in their more authentic state.
I want to do a plug here.
Plug.
Okay.
Plug. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m., my friends, the Q&A is launching. That is where you get to voice your opinions. You get to share your questions with us, and then we go and answer them. I had to do it.
Are you bringing the streak out tomorrow at 7?
Not tomorrow, not the next day, but I'll bring these girls.
All right. We'll see you tonight at 11. I'll have some more commentary on this. Thanks for joining us. Ariane.
Adios. Adios.
Delia.
So great to have you. Thank you so much for the conversation. Let's keep talking.
And
bye, guys.
Flow.